All right, everyone, we are back with war number 5. As usual, this is not a super deep dive into defense and planning. And also take your time to thank your officers for the work they put in, because this is a long and annoying process. All right, so first let's take a look at bans. We have Apocalypse, Ghost, and Doom. So first time for Apocalypse and Doom for us could make things interesting, but as usual, Ghost is the popular choice. Looking at Boss Island here, we've got a null boss. I know taking this with Kingpin is pretty safe. KT1's got a video of him doing it last season. It's really just block baiting heavies, pushing him to SP2, and then punishing him for all of it, instead of allowing him to throw SP1, which will cause inverse control. So you could use someone like Dragon Man or Hyperion. I mentioned those two because power gain affects a lot of Null's abilities. Plus, you'd always want a special attack ready if he's going to throw SP1, because throwing it when the corruption's about to hit is the same thing as avoiding encroaching stun or Quake's aftershock if you're playing against her. So not too problematic of a boss, but we haven't seen him yet. Sorcerer here, expect a magic. S99 with the anti-venom synergy. Archangel, you can probably just nuke her down with Archangel. Maybe even Mr. Negative or Mr. Fantastic with some debuff pre-fights. So this is a pretty common placement, nothing new there. MODOK, kill. You can use Kingpin, Killmonger, Mole Man. Again, nothing too crazy here with the options, even Magneto. Nimrod here, you could use someone who's not very debuff heavy, but I would just recommend using Nebula, building 5 shock charges, and then you completely shut the node off. And then you could stay there, build to SP3, and just shock them to death if you're not willing to get rid of those shocks and drop SP2 to double them, which could get interesting with Conflictor. So Weapon X here, Claire, you've seen me take with. Warlock, you've seen me take here with. I bet Magneto or Dragon Man would work here. It's a pretty common placement. Infinity War Iron Man, this is a problematic placement, but since Human Torch is available, you could try and nuke him down with Human Torch at pre-fight. We've been using Void pretty successfully and just hitting into block at the end and avoiding getting hit due to high ground. You could even use Hercules duped and just try and, again, nuke him, bait out specials early, and just wail on him. Nova here on Hazard Shift, Rulk, Kingpin with the Hood synergy. Nothing too crazy here. Nova's usually on this spot, so we're used to having the assignment or matchup. And then Guardian here on Safeguard. You guys have seen me take it with Venom Pool now, Clairvoyant, and Magneto. And I'd have to say Magneto is probably the easiest. So I would probably go for Magneto here and just end it with an SP3 bleed detonate. 2 Silver Surfer here. Since we are without Apocalypse, I would not recommend Cable, obviously. So Archangel, but you won't have Horseman. So my go-to is Man-Thing. Man-Thing handles this easily with Mystic Dispersion and a Power Start 1. Looking at Path 1, nothing crazy here. Just, outplay Human or Hitmonkey and Professor X. Warlock's probably going to work for both of them here. Path 2, trickier here because our go-to is usually Apocalypse, but now we need to think about ability accuracy reduction and playing the node smart. So you, here with Mysterio, you could just play the node avoiding well-timed blocks, except for when you want to land the heavy in the strike counter combo and then throw your special attack. So really anyone, technically. If you have a Hyperion, that's actually probably going to be the easiest option, because then you just always have special attacks ready, and you can just dex. Maybe in Dragon Man would easily bypass this just because of the power gain and throwing a special attack, rinse and repeat. Here I'd probably just use an evade counter, so maybe like a Shang-Chi or a Mole Man, and then just avoid dashing so much. Really rely on parry here. And then you won't have to worry about evade with those two. So Path 2 definitely being interesting. Here, she can be tough. I would probably go Claire in bleed, and then once you get buff immunity placed, go ahead and switch to Plagued, and then just keep her power drained. That's probably the play. If she can't throw a special attack, she can't get instability, so you don't have to worry about a random armor up. So just like even magic, technically, if you can beat Power Start 1 and lock her in with 0 power, then you never have to worry about armor up showing up. And then she's done. But yeah, pretty tricky here without Ghost. Ghost would be the easiest, and she is unduped, and you don't have to worry about an armor break debuff. Kind of hover over to section 2, but let's go ahead and go back to the EMP node, talk about Domino here. Probably use Nebula or Silver Centurion without any pre-fights. If you don't want to use Warlock or someone else that normally counters Domino, then you can probably bring a Odin pre-fight to avoid shock. It's more so just being smart about Bubble Shield there. Killmonger here, go ahead and use Omega Red or Namor. An armor break champ would help too. However, if he does shrug it, then you have that reflect damage. I have seen Cosmic Ghost Rider used here, but it's kind of tricky. So path 4 here could get interesting. You could use magic and lock him down, at least against Dragon Man, not against Immortal Abomination. You could use an armor break immune champ. You could use like S99. Here, I would probably just use Warlock. Would be the easiest Ultron. Anyone who's just not going to poison, then you would never have to worry about unblockable, and it's just playing Immortal Abomination. So even CMM, but obviously with Dragon Man before it, that's not a good play for that path. Path 5, you can use Human Torch since he isn't banned. If you bring in 1, I would probably go ahead and risk using Human Torch on Sasquatch and then use the pre-fight on Dr. Doom. Hard to say though. You can probably use maybe even S99. Hard to, again, it's Mighty Charge, so it's kind of tricky. I'm kind of blanking on what I would use there. Path 6, you could use a magic for Apocalypse, maybe even a magic for Mojo. And then Maw here, you can go ahead and use Sorcerer or Hood or Claire, or can't use Doom, or Human Torch with pre-fight. So this one could get really, really tricky. Maw can be annoying. You can use Tigra. That's one I haven't thought of. You could probably even use Tigra for Apocalypse on path 6. Looking at path 7 through 9, Mangog here, use S99, Mr. Negative, Magic. Path 1 here, go ahead and use Magneto for Penny, and then Fury, Shang-Chi, or Mole Man for spam. Path 7 here, you can probably nuke her down with a Warlock, or use Claire, which can get kind of tricky, but go ahead and stay in Plagued, and Suicides, or not Suicides since it is heal block. Doom's off the table. I've seen Howard the Duck used. And then Rhino here, just be smart. Shang-Chi would probably work, because then you can slow him and then never worry about unstoppable. I'd probably go ahead and go with CMM with Fury for path 9 against this Bishop, and then against the fight before, which I need to wait for us to get there. But I know she'll nuke him down, especially if she's close to binary or in binary Chavez. So not here for Chavez. Probably risk a Nebula here for Chavez. This one could get a bit trickier. A bleed immune. Going on to Magneto here probably as well. Maybe use CMM, but don't throw SB2. Maybe use Sorcerer and start in purple. That way you have slow available. Magneto here on Mixmaster. Definitely use a Nimrod. You can probably get away with Claire and staying in blood, and then just parry heavy to SB1 with a white Magneto pre-fight, or sorry, to SB3 with a white Magneto pre-fight. Not too many crazy options there. Kitty here, use G99, but use the pre-fights or Silver Centurion. She's not too tough here. Man-Thing, this one's kind of tricky. I have a hunch that maybe Rogue might work, but it would be a super long fight. Omega Red, maybe. The issue with throwing an Odin pre-fight here is that it could get nullified, so you're kind of, lost. Path 1, Cosmic Ghost Rider, have a white Magneto pre-fight, and then just use any, probably like Claire or any Mystic, really anyone. And then I Hulk there, probably use Falcon, Warlock. Path 2, we have Green Goblin again. I would probably recommend Magneto, but go ahead and have Pacify ready. Or Respect, and then Falcon here for Thing, and then only attack when locked on is ready. Here, probably use Claire against Airwalkers so that you don't have to worry about the buffs. And then you can Power Drain and Plagued, or, you know, nuke or heal back. Path 4 here, White Magneto pre-fight would work for Annihilus so that you can reliably parry, but you can use Claire. You could use Magneto. Path 5 here, really with this Mr. Negative, just avoid parry, and you'll never have to worry about inverse controls. Or you could use someone who shrugs, and then you don't have to worry about inverse controls at all. And then Fury here, I'd probably use Omega Red or Archangel. And Path 2 here, probably Claire, Archangel, Magic. You know, there are plenty of options for, or even CGR, duped CGR. But scroll here, not really too much of a problem. And then the end of Path 5, if you've already got Omega Red going, go ahead and use them here. For Jabari, moving on, 7 through 9 in Section 1, probably use either a skill champ like Fury or Shang-Chi, or use Magneto, and then here use Human Torch. Would be an easy fight, just have Resonate on. Hyperion here, use Claire or Magic, you know. Well, Magic would probably have an issue, but Claire would probably just be fine. And then here, Path 9, I'd use CMM, especially if you're going to use her in Section 2. You could even use a Kingpin with Hood, but not against that Void. That's actually a trap. So probably just CMM, maybe even Rolk, and then CMM for Arcus. So yeah, that's the breakdown of our defense. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will catch you in the attack phase.